Archaic Records.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Archaic Records here with you again. My name is Jamie, coming to you from Nashville, Tennessee. Here to wish you a very happy Morrissey Monday, a celebration of all things Morrissey and the Smiths. And for this week's episode, we're going to take a quick look back at Morrissey's recent show on November 6th, 2024 in Birmingham, Alabama. This was a show that I was in attendance at. This was a show that I was extremely excited about, and I got to tell you that this was a show that did not disappoint me one bit. Whenever I'm in the presence of the big guy, I always leave a satisfied customer, and this show was absolutely no exception. I went into this show the same way that I always try to do, that is as ignorant as possible. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. Well, Jim, you couldn't be more ignorant if you tried. I mean, do you want to hear the story or not? Oh, you don't? Okay, well, now I'm going to tell it just to punish you. How's that sound, son? But I did do the thing that I always do when it comes to the week or two leading into a Morrissey show. That is, I tried to shut myself off from any sort of social media that might give any spoilers as to what the set list was going to include. That being said, I was sort of exposed to one incident leading into the show in Birmingham on November 6th, that being the show on November 2nd in Dallas, Texas. Now, I was at work a couple days before the show in Birmingham, and one of my clients, who knows that I'm a Morrissey wonk, he came in, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "Hey, did you see what happened to your boy?" And I remember thinking to myself, my boy? I'm not exactly sure who you're referring to, my friend. And he said, Morrissey. Did you see what happened to Morrissey in Dallas, Texas? And like I said before, I had pretty much shut myself off from anything having to do with this tour because I try to go into these shows as ignorant as possible when it comes to at least the set list. I love going into these shows blind. To me, that's half the fun of driving to these shows, is imagining in your head what songs you may or may not hear. And I told this client of mine, I was like, no, because I'm going to go see him in a couple days and I don't want to know what songs he's playing. He's like, well, you got to check it out on YouTube. Morrissey body slammed one of his fans in Dallas. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that doesn't really sound right. I can't imagine Morrissey body slamming a fan. Actually, it's hard to imagine Morrissey body slamming anybody. I mean, the guy's 65 years old and, you know, he's still relatively slight. I can't imagine Morrissey laying his hands on anybody in a sort of aggressive manner. Although I do believe, and this is maybe just something that I like to believe, maybe this is something that I just have created in my own head to sort of establish even more folklore around the guy. But I have this sense that Morrissey could kick somebody's ass if he had to. I have this vision in my head that if Morrissey were cornered, he would have no trouble chucking fists. So the first thing I did after that, as soon as I got home that day, was I at least wanted to know what happened in Dallas, Texas. I was afraid that if anything else, this might jeopardize the show in Birmingham on November 6th. So I did a very sort of specific search on YouTube to try to find out what had happened. And what had happened wasn't at all that Morrissey had body slammed a fan. What happened was during the encore of the show in Dallas, Texas, Morrissey was rushed by several stage invaders, some of which I thought got overly aggressive, and the show sort of ended abruptly. It was something that happened to me in 2014 in San Jose on the World Peace Tour at the San Jose Civic. The same thing happened on that show. Morrissey came out for the encore, and he got rushed by a huge group of stage invaders, and Morrissey ended up leaving the show. You don't want to say he left the show early. That's also sort of a misnomer. I mean, he was in the middle of the encore. So it wasn't as if the show ended after 2 or 3 songs, but it was still frustrating. I still did not like that. And the whole stage invader thing at this point in the game has to be retired. I'm so done with it. I think at this point in the game, it isn't even genuine. This is something that comes across as contrived and just honestly annoying. Now, I understand that it is a unique part of the Morrissey live experience. It's a unique part of Morrissey's history, and I totally understand the origins of the stage invaders. I mean, you go back to the late 80s and the early 90s, and I can totally relate to and understand fans that were so just overcome by emotion that they literally had to jump on stage and lay their hands upon the master. But back in those days, it seemed like a little bit more authentic. Nowadays, it's contrived, it's ingenuine, and let's just be honest. Morrissey is 65 years old. Most of us are middle-aged, and nobody in the world wants to watch a 50-year-old man waddle his fat ass up onto the stage just to take a selfie. So I think it's time to sort of retire the stage invader thing. To me, it's played out, it's tired, and it's dead. And of course, this happens in Texas because Texans are sort of overly aggressive, generally speaking. In my opinion, Texas is like a suburb of hell. I always love it when people try to sell you on the concept of Austin. If you try to explain to somebody that you aren't really a big fan of Texas, they always try to convince you, well, you've never been to Austin. Austin is awesome, man. Austin is 100% jug certified. And I always think to myself, well, I have been to Austin, and Austin isn't all that snug either. Now, I know what you're saying to yourself. Well, Jim, Tennessee isn't exactly a cupcake either, and I'm not here to disagree with that. You think that I want to live in Tennessee? My wife and I were basically evicted from our home states, and this is just sort of where we landed during COVID. I always love that when you're in Nashville and you meet native Nashvillians who hate Californians. I always want to tell them, you know what? There aren't people in California sitting around tables talking about the majesty of Nashville. This is a place that people sort of end up because they can no longer afford to live in their home state. You think that I want to live in this landlocked Trump nightmare? You're wrong, son. You're wrong. Anyway, this show in Birmingham was on November 6th, 2024 at the Alabama Theater. The Alabama Theater is a place that is absolutely beautiful. I had never been to the Birmingham Theater before this show, but fortunately for me, I had the opportunity to visit the city of Birmingham on several occasions leading up to this show. And I got to tell you that Birmingham is becoming one of my favorite cities in the country. This is a city that my wife and I virtually knew nothing about until we moved out here to Nashville about 4.5 years ago. And every time we visit the city of Birmingham, my opinion of it just continues to grow and grow. Birmingham is awesome. Now, you can snicker, you can sneer, you can make fun of the state of Alabama, but Birmingham is the jugs, in my opinion. This is a city that has a real spirit to it. It has a real identity. It's got a great DIY, underground, artsy music, neighborhood sort of culture. That's all things that are lacking up here in Nashville. Now, I'm not going to sit here and just shit on Nashville because I've lived in Nashville for 4.5 years, and Nashville is a fine enough place to live. It's a decent enough place to call home, but it's not interesting. Nashville is very bland. I feel as if I live in the Bible Belt version of Los Angeles. It's very strip mall-y. It's very chain oriented. There isn't really any sort of community up here. You go down to a place like Birmingham and there's a cool underground sort of punk rock, music, art, sort of underground culture. My wife and I were up in Cincinnati a couple weeks ago, and the same thing can be said about Cincinnati, which is another amazing city in this sort of general region of the country. But Cincinnati has this awesome sort of community vibe to it, which just is lacking here in Nashville. So really, any opportunity I have to go down and visit Birmingham, I am all in, especially when it involves the big guy, Mr. Stephen Patrick Morrissey. But I thought, generally speaking, I thought that the show was great. I thought Morrissey looked great. I think he sounded great. I think that this show was better than the two shows that he played out here in Memphis and Nashville last year on the 40th anniversary tour. I thought that the band sounded good. Now, I have heard some people sort of quibble when it comes to Morrissey's current band. This isn't necessarily the favorite band of some people that I've talked to. And yeah, I mean, my favorite Morrissey band, of course, is the classic lineup, which features Gary Day, Boz Bohr, Alan White, and Spencer Coburn. But this band is not bad. I don't necessarily think they're the greatest band that he's ever worked with, but I think they sound Pretty good. I thought the set list for this tour was awesome. It was very interesting. There was a lot of stuff on this tour that I did not necessarily expect to see live. I thought the set list for this tour was actually better also than the set list he played for the 40th anniversary tour. I liked those two shows that he played last year out here in Memphis and Nashville. But that being said, I thought that the set list for the 40th anniversary tour was a little bit weaker, at least, than the set list that we got on November 6th in Birmingham, Alabama. Generally speaking, I thought that the show was awesome, and the Alabama Theater is the jugs. If you ever have an opportunity, one, to visit the city of Birmingham, you absolutely have to, because it is one of the most underrated cities, I think, in the United States, and the Alabama Theater is absolutely beautiful. The first song Morrissey played on November 6th was You're the One for Me, Fatty, which is a song I've talked about on this channel many times before. This is a song that I don't dislike. It's not a song that I hate. I've always said that this is sort of the solo equivalent to Girlfriend in a Coma, which is a song that I, again, don't hate, don't dislike. It's just overplayed. I've probably heard it too many times. This song is just sort of funny and kitschy and cute. And I think generally speaking, the song, when it is played live, is sort of a crowd pleaser. For me, it's a song that, I could just probably never hear again, especially when you go see him live and you've got about 20 songs. This is not one that I want to hear. And it's sort of interesting to me that he opened the show with You're the One for Me, Fatty, because to me, an opening song to a show is vitally important. Many months ago on this channel, I talked about I did an episode where I talked about what it would be like to see my dream Morrissey set list. 23 songs, 22 songs with a one-song encore. And I got to tell you that when I wrote that set list, the one song that I labored the most over was the opening song of the set, which on my dream set list was the song The Queen is Dead, which I just think sets an amazing tone. It's up-tempo, it's upbeat. You can just imagine Morrissey coming out on stage, breaking into that song and sort of whipping the crowd into a frenzy. Not to say that when he plays You're the One for Me, Fatty, the crowd isn't necessarily whipped into a frenzy. But for me, whenever I go see Morrissey, it always has the same effect on me. I mean, I'm a man in his 40s. I understand that this sounds a little sad, but I get so amped up waiting for him to come out on stage that when I finally see him in person, I literally feel as if my blood is electrified. I mean, I've never gotten over the emotion of watching him walk out on stage and just literally feeling like I'm about to burst. And then he goes into the song You're the One for Me, Fatty. And I don't want to say it was a buzzkill, but it definitely sort of brought me down, a notch. I witnessed the same thing last year in Memphis when he played at the Elvis Presley soundstage on the first of two nights in Tennessee. Because when he came out to open that show in Memphis, he played a relatively sort of obscure, down-tempo Elvis Presley cover called You'll Be Gone, which I'm a huge Elvis Presley fan. I had no issue with him doing an Elvis Presley cover, especially in Memphis. I thought it was cool. I thought it was appropriate. And if you're familiar enough with Morrissey and his music snobbery, you realize if he's going to do a Elvis Presley cover, he's not going to do Heartbreak Hotel or Suspicious Minds. He's going to do something relatively deep in Elvis's catalog. But I remember when he came out on stage for that show in Memphis, the whole crowd just kind of like what? Looked around like, what is this? What song is this? And I sort of knew what song it was, but I say to myself, come on, Steve, put this song in like the middle of the set. Come out with fire breathing on the opening song of your set. And for me, You're the One for Me, Fatty just doesn't do it. Now, on the bright side, I thought to myself, all right, if we have to hear You're the One for Me, Fatty, which I don't love, I told you this before, Steve, let's just get it out of the way. Let's just get it done now. That way it's over with and I don't have to think about it the rest of the night. Now, there's another rule that I have when it comes to seeing Morrissey live, and that is if you're going to play You're the One for Me, Fatty, you're not allowed to play Girlfriend in a Coma. So, okay, we're getting this one out of the way, but later on, if I hear Girlfriend in a Coma, you and I are going to go outside and we're going to have a tussle. Anyway, I thought he performed the song "You're the One for Me, Fatty" well. Of course, I'm just jacked up as soon as he comes out on stage, so it didn't bother me too much. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and complain. Again, keep in mind the show was the day after the election, so there were other things to complain about in the world, regardless of which side of the political aisle you sit on. So he opened the show with "You're the One for Me, Fatty." It's fine. As long as we don't have to deal with girlfriend in a coma later, I'll consider it all good. After that, he went into the song "Alma Matters" off of Maladjusted. I talked about this a couple weeks ago when I sort of previewed the tour on this channel. "Alma Matters" is a song that I really like a lot. Maladjusted is an album that I just love. I always have. From the day it came out till today, it's still a record that I listen to on relatively heavy rotation. It isn't necessarily one of the albums in Morrissey's catalog that I listen to the most. I stand by the idea that this is an album that I probably like more than a lot of Morrissey fans, but I also admit that the album that preceded this one, Southpaw Grammar, is an album that I probably like less than a lot of other Morrissey fans, because Maladjusted, or Southpaw Grammar, is actually my least favorite album in Morrissey's catalog. But I gotta tell you, man, "Alma Matters" is a song that I've seen live so many times, and there's so much goodness on Maladjusted to choose from that I feel as if it's sort of time to put Alma Matters to bed for a little while and bring out something else off of Maladjusted. I mean, my favorite song off Maladjusted, if you're going to play one song off Maladjusted, for me, my dream song to hear off of Maladjusted is "Ammunition," which to me is the best song on that album. Pretty much has always been my favorite song off Maladjusted. And I was thinking about this earlier today. I don't think I've ever seen Ammunition live, even back in 1997, which was my first Morrissey tour, the Maladjusted tour in San Francisco. I don't think I've seen Ammunition, but that being said, "Alma Matters" is awesome. I do love that song. And live, it's great. I mean, every single song in this show, Morrissey just killed. He sounds great. I mean, I would make the argument that Morrissey sounds better now than he did back in 2017, 2019, maybe even 2014. I noticed that on the last tour, the 40th anniversary tour in Memphis and Nashville, and I had not seen him since 2019, before last year. I think he sounds better now than he did on the California Sun tour and the Lone High School tour, at least in my opinion. After that, he played "Shoplifters," which, hey, no complaints there. I love that song. Anything by the Smiths, you know what, I'm all in. It doesn't really matter. Smith songs are always huge crowd pleasers. I have seen him play "Shoplifters" before, but it's a song I never get tired of. So you're not going to get any complaints from me. Anything by the Smiths in the Smiths catalog, really. After that, he played "I Wish You Lonely" off of Low in High School. Now, it's interesting to me because Low in High School is an album that I really like a lot. It isn't necessarily my favorite album. There are albums that I like less than Low in High School, but there's a lot of albums that I like better than Low in High School. But this song in particular, "I Wish You Lonely," the studio version of this song is okay. It's not necessarily life-altering. It isn't one of the most standout tracks on that album, but live, this song destroys it. This song is so much better live than it is on the album that I actually have gotten to the point to where I love seeing this song live. I mean, there's other things I would rather hear at this point in time off Low in High School, but the song "I Wish You Lonely" is just powerful live. He destroys it. He killed it. That show in Alabama on the 6th. The next song after that was a brand new song called "I Am Veronica." This is the first time I've seen this song live and in person. I have seen some stuff off of YouTube of him performing this song. I really like this song a lot. This is a song that, like I said, I had never seen it performed live in person. I have seen some stuff on YouTube. I really like this song a lot. I don't like it quite as much as I like "Rebels Without Applause," but to me, this song was awesome. It was cool to hear some new material on this tour. That was something I was a little bit curious about going into this show also, because I'd kind of gone in blind. I definitely wanted to hear "Rebels Without Applause." I wanted to hear something new. And I thought the song I Am Veronica is really good. After that, he played How Soon Is Now. It's a song I love. I think all Smiths fans love this song, generally speaking. I'm sure there are those guys out there who say it's the worst song he's ever done. But I think guys that say that are just guys that say that. This is a song that I never really get tired of. Yeah, I would agree that it's probably overplayed. And at this point in time, if you're going to sacrifice this song for something that you hear less, I'm not necessarily complaining about it. I feel like this is probably one of those songs that Morrissey kind of has to play. Although, I don't know that Morrissey necessarily plays that game when it comes to songs he has to play. But this version of How Soon Is Now is awesome. I will say, I just went to go see Johnny Marr about a month ago in San Francisco. And after seeing Johnny Marr play this song in San Francisco, just, perfect. Watching anybody else play this song, especially on the guitar, is just a little bit of a disappointment. And after seeing that Johnny Marr show in San Francisco, or while I was at that Johnny Marr show in San Francisco, as he was playing this song, you just picture in your head Morrissey's vocals dropping in, because Johnny Marr, of course, sings the songs when he performs them live. And at this point in time, for me, it's like, if Morrissey's going to play these songs solo without Johnny Marr, I could sort of take it or leave it. I enjoy it. It's obviously a huge crowd pleaser. But, man, to see this with Johnny Marr and Morrissey, not saying that's going to happen, not saying I'm pining for that to happen, but if the Morrissey-Marr reunion were ever to happen, that would breathe all new life into the song How Soon Is Now for me, because, as I've mentioned before, I never got a chance to see the Smiths live. I was only 12 years old when the Smiths broke up. And I grew up in Mayberry in the middle of nowhere. You understand? So for me, How Soon Is Now is great. I will say that if you are one of the people who sort of isn't necessarily in love with this particular incarnation of Morrissey's band, this song was performed instrumentally a little bit weak. Now, it's still great, but instrumentally, this was probably the weakest song of the show, at least that I saw. After that, he went into 2 new songs in a row, which I thought was the height of snuggery. Now, the first one, I mentioned this before, a song that I don't necessarily love. Dare I say, I'm not really a big fan of, that being, of course, The Telephone Rings. Morrissey played this song both nights out here in Tennessee on the 40th anniversary tour in 2023, and I didn't love it then. Don't love it now, but I respect the fact that he's out there playing new songs, trying to get people excited, reignited over the new album. And again, this is a song that I was thinking to myself as he went into this song, I was like, oh, not that I don't want to hear it, but come on, Steve, if you're going to bust out something new, I gotta hear Rebels Without Applause. That song is the jugs. This song is kind of a bucket. It's not really my thing. I don't love it. I don't love the lyrics. But it was okay. Like I said, it's not really a song that I'm into. I'm not going to complain, mind you, but I guess I'm complaining now a little bit. But hey, this is my channel. You don't have to watch. Turn it off. I don't really care. Nobody watches this shit anyway. But after that, my hopes were realized. My dreams had come true. I set relatively modest goals in my life. You understand? After that, he went into the song Rebels Without Applause. Probably one of the best new songs, in my opinion, that he has done in probably the last decade or so. I love it. And live, man, it did not disappoint. This was actually one of the highlights of the show for me, because this is a song, ever since the single came out, I gotta tell you, this is a song I just don't ever get tired of, ever. And seeing it live for the first time, I mean, it got me hopping. I'm not gonna lie to you. Killed it. Destroyed it. I love that song. Like I said, this is one of my favorite newer Morrissey songs in the past, decade. I love that song. After that, oh man, One of the greatest live songs in Morrissey's catalog. A song that I never get tired of. This is my favorite music video in Morrissey's entire catalog. The live video for the song Speedway is the greatest music video that Morrissey ever made, because Morrissey really is, when he's on and firing on all cylinders, Morrissey is the greatest live performer in the history of rock and roll. I mean, this tour proved that to me, because the guy is 65 years old, and he was so well engaged, in such a great mood on this show. You get the sense, and since I've been to this show in Birmingham, I have gone back and watched a lot of the stuff on YouTube from this tour, and I gotta tell you that it just seems like Morrissey on this tour in particular is just out there having a great time. He is well engaged. He seems to be enjoying himself and enjoying the fans. And I've always believed, or I guess I've always wanted to believe, that Morrissey has as much affection for his fans as we do for him. Well, maybe not that much. That'd be asking quite a bit, because Morrissey fans are all a little bit crazy. I think we can acknowledge that. So maybe he doesn't have as much affection for us as we do for him, but you would like to think that he does have some, and I think that this tour really showed it, because he was well engaged. He seemed to be having a great time. I think that this tour is actually somewhat important for Morrissey. I mentioned this before when I talked about the tour preview show, that I think it's important for Morrissey to end 2024 on a positive note, because this has not necessarily been the greatest year of Morrissey's career, especially when it comes to public relations. And to have him go out and just see his adoring public and be so well engaged with them was a treat. I mean, he was on in 2023 on the 40th anniversary tour as well, but he seemed to be on a whole different plane on this tour. He was just visibly excited to be there, you could tell, or at least it appeared, as far as I can tell, in Speedway. I mean, holy shit. You talk about a song that I never get tired of. Ever! Especially live. Oh my God. He killed it. After that, he played the song The World is Full of Crashing Boars off of You're the Quarry. Anything off You're the Quarry to me is magical. I mean, that album is pretty much a piece of perfection. There's nothing off of You're the Quarry that I don't want to hear live. I love Crashing Boars. After that, he played a song that sort of surprised me. And this is the fun thing about going to see Morrissey still at this stage of his career. At 65 years old, 40 plus years into his career, is he still brings out surprises. This is something that I absolutely admire about him. When you go see Morrissey live, man, you're not just getting the standard greatest hits set list. You're not going to see Devo. You're not going to see Echo and the Bunnymen. You're going to see something unique every time. Now, this song, I would make the argument, isn't necessarily a deep cut, but this was a song that actually really surprised me. He played Life is a Pigsty off of Ringleader of the Tormentors. Now, Ringleader of the Tormentors is an album. To me, if you go back and you listen to Morrissey's albums in chronological order, Ringleader of the Tormentors, I've made this argument before. It's an album that I like enough. It's definitely towards the back end of Morrissey's catalog, at least as far as I'm concerned. But if you go back and you listen to his albums in chronological order, to me, this is one of the more disappointing albums in Morrissey's catalog, because it had the misfortune of being the follow-up to You're the Quarry, which to me is perfect. I mean, it is a perfect album. And Ringleader of the Tormentors, although it does have a lot of good material on it, it is flawed. And I think those flaws in 2006, when that record came out, following You're the Quarry, I think those flaws were sort of exaggerated a little bit, because in my head, when Ringleader of the Tormentors came out, I mean, I sprinted to my local record store to pick that up the day it came out. I remember taking it home and listening to it and just staring at my speakers, like waiting for this thing to jump out of the speakers at me the way You Were the Quarry did. And I was like, I listened to it the first time and listened to it second time, third time, and it just didn't happen right away. This was an album that to me was much more of a slow burn. I like it. It's not my favorite. I'd say it's about 60% great and maybe about 40% underwhelming. At certain points, a little bit boring. I like the song Life is a Pigsty. I thought it was cool that he brought this song out. Like I said, it's always cool that he's willing to still surprise his fans. Surprised me, at least, with this one. I don't know that this was a song that I expected to see live. I didn't really expect to see much off of Ringleader Tormentors on this tour at all. But after that, oh, man. Played the greatest song of all time. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, Jim, this song is a little bit overplayed in my opinion. This isn't exactly a deep cut, son. And to that I say, you can deep lick my ass. Because this is the greatest song of all time. It always has to be played. I never don't want to hear it. That is, every day is like Sunday. And I got to tell you that every time I see Morrissey live and this song gets played, which isn't every time. I've not seen him play Every Day is Like Sunday live every time. Now, when he doesn't play it, I don't leave, verklempt. I don't necessarily want a refund, but it's always slightly disappointing. But every time he does play it, and I'm in the same room as this song, I gotta tell you, I get a little emotional. I almost want to cry. What is it about this song that is so snug? Greatest song of all time. Greatest song of all time. When I have enough decency to finally go tits up, this is my funeral song. After that, he played another brand new song. A song called I X Love You. I thought that this song was okay. It wasn't necessarily my favorite song. I would sort of rank the new songs that he played as Telephone Ring being my least favorite. And then this one, I X Love You being next after that. And then I liked I Am Veronica more. And of course I love Rebels Without Applause. The song I X Love You was okay. It's very much a Morrissey song lyrically. It's good. I don't think it's necessarily something that I'm going to be super excited about to hear on the new record. Although I haven't heard any of the studio versions of these songs apart from Rebels Without Applause. So it's possible that the studio version of I X Love You will be the greatest thing I've ever heard. Live, it was okay. I mean, I was still buzzing after Every Day is Like Sunday. So, I mean, he could have played I Can't Drive 55. And I probably would have thought it was acceptable. After that, he played The Loop, which is awesome. Actually, that's not true. I skipped one. After that, he played I Hug a Pillow from Dog on a Chain, which is another song I like. This is the only song I've ever actually seen live in person from Dog on a Chain. It's a song that I like. In 2023, when he did the 40th anniversary tour, I was a little bit curious to see what song he would pick, if any, off of Dog on a Chain. This was the same song he played last year. It's a good song. If I were going to pick one song off Dog on a Chain, this would not necessarily be the one that I would pick. My favorite song off Dog on a Chain is What Kind of People Live in These Houses, which somebody told me one time they didn't like that song because they thought it was too mean. I don't really understand what that means. I love the song. What Kind of People Live in These Houses? I Hug a Pillow is great. After that, he played The Loop, which is just awesome. And then he went into All the Lazy Dykes off of You Are the Quarry. Again, I love this song. And this is sort of a song that I wasn't necessarily expecting to hear on this tour either, but anything off of You Are the Quarry to me is just the goods. After that, he played the Smiths song, Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want. This is a song I've seen a bunch of times, killed it, always a crowd pleaser. Everything by the Smiths is a crowd pleaser. But after that, he played another song that I was so not expecting. This one was the biggest shocker of the night. And this is a song that, for me, is slightly infamous because this is a song that, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really like. In fact, I might go as far as to say, in fact, I would go as far as to say, I'm just going to say it. I'm going to jump in. No more pussyfooting around here, son. This is my all-time least favorite Morrissey song in the entire catalog. I've mentioned it before. Actually, when I mentioned this song before as being my least favorite Morrissey song of all time, somebody scolded me in the comment section told me that I didn't know that what the hell I was talking about. And that song is Dear God, Please Help Me from Ringleader of the Tormentors. But I got to tell you, even though I don't like this song, now I don't hate it. I don't hate this song. There isn't a Morrissey song that I hate. Man, I don't like this one. But I got to tell you, even though I don't like this song, it is cool to me that he brings it out. Because there are people out there that like it. I don't necessarily want to meet you if you're one of them. But there are people out there that like this song. I don't get it. I remember thinking to myself, this is great! I hate this song. But it's cool that he played it. And he played it well if you like it. But to me, this is one of the songs that sort of makes Ringleader of the Tormentors not necessarily the most snug in his catalog. I don't like this song. But I don't know, it was cool seeing it live. I don't know. I guess that makes this show memorable in a way. After that, he closed out the set with another song off Ringleader of the Tormentors. I was a little shocked, to be honest with you, that he played 3 songs off of Ringleader of the Tormentors. Shocked is a strong word. I'm not easily shockable, but I was surprised that he played 3 songs off of Ringleader of the Tormentors. Obviously, 2026 is not too far away, so we are approaching the 20th anniversary of this tour. I think it'd be interesting to see if he does anything to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Ringleader of the Tormentors. Of course, he was supposed to do that this year with Quarry, of which those shows got canceled. We're not going to go back and rehash that right now, though. We're staying positive today. I like the song, I Will See You in Far Off Places. Not really a deep cut, but a great song. After that, he went off the stage, came back for the encore, which was First of the Gang to Die. I mean, snuggery. So all in all, this show I thought was awesome. As I mentioned before, this show I thought was much better than the 2 shows that we saw last year in Memphis and Nashville. Now, those shows were awesome. Nothing to sneeze at. But I actually liked this show much better. I thought the set list was much more interesting. Like I said before, it surprised me that he went 3 deep on Ringleader of the Tormentors. He hit You Are the Quarry pretty heavily. But the thing that surprised me the most, and the thing I take away most from this particular tour, is that he played 4 brand new songs. So in that sense, this tour actually reminds me of the show that I went to in 2002. I believe that was the Best of Morrissey tour in 2002. And the one thing that I remember most about that show in 2002, I saw that tour in Seattle, and I remember that, of course, this was still 2 years before You Were the Quarry came out. Let's hope it's not 2 more years before Bonfire of Teenagers comes out. I mean, let's hope on that, because I can't take 2 more years of this Bonfire drama. I do remember in 2002, though, that he played several new songs that would eventually end up on the You Are the Quarry album. So I think that this tour, in a way, sort of reminds me most of the tours I've seen, at least, of that tour back in 2002, because he really hit the new material pretty hard. And I gotta say, even though, the song, of course, The Telephone Rings isn't my favorite, and I thought I X Love You was okay. I thought it was awesome and cool to hear those songs live, and the fact that I finally got to hear Rebels Without Applause live was just awesome. So all in all, I thought that this tour was great. If you have not seen this tour yet and it's still heading in your direction, I simply cannot recommend it enough. One thing this tour did do, based on the fact that there are 4 new songs in the set list, at least in the Birmingham set list, was it really did get me really revamped for this new album. I've been sort of in this frustration over the new album. I've kind of gotten to the points where I'm just sort of burnt out on the drama surrounding it. So I've sort of let that sort of cloud my excitement on this new album. But hearing these new songs live, I am all in on the new album. Let's get it released. Steve, I know you can self-release it. I know you can. You know you can. If nobody else is willing to put it out, let's just do it. Go see this tour. I do not think you'll be disappointed. It was the jugs. Real quick before I get out of here this week, I would be remiss. I don't believe I've done a Morrissey show since Halloween, so happy belated 61st birthday to the greatest guitar player of all time, Mr. Johnny Marr. The show in San Francisco I just went to about a month or so ago was the Jugs. I reviewed that show a couple episodes ago here on Archaic Records if you're interested in hearing my nonsensical bull bullshit a little bit more, you can go back and check out my inarticulate review of Johnny Marr's show at the Warfield in San Francisco in September. Anyway, man, thank you so much for checking out this video. This is Archaic Records. My name is Jamie, coming at you from Nashville, Tennessee. Be sure to go out and support your local record store. Check back most weeks for Morrissey Monday, a celebration of all things Morrissey and the Smiths. On my next Morrissey Monday episode, I will be ranking for you the shows in Morrissey's career that I have seen in person. This was my 13th Morrissey show, so I will be ranking the Morrissey shows that I have been to. I realize that you probably just pissed down your leg with excitement, but I'm working on it. It's going to take a minute. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, shall we? Apart from that, we're going to check back for other album reviews throughout the week. And I guess that's just about going to do her. So, until next time, my friends, talk to you then.